Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to get started with our webinar today, and I would like to welcome you all for your participation. Today, we will focus on our Cloud Pro. So we're going to have a demonstration of our new product. Cloud was actually introduced last year, so for those who are not yet either users or have not really looked closely into it, Cloud generally is a product which we have launched to make the loan level data more easily digestible, and also in particular allow rapid analysis of the loan level data. So the focus of Cloud generally is on aggregation, visualization, easy comparison and benchmarking, and then also slice and dice the loan level data in many different ways. Today, the main purpose of our webinar is to introduce a new version of the Cloud, which we call Cloud Pro. There are a number of new features. A key feature is that we have now one Excel workbook for all the major asset classes. In the past, we had for each asset class a separate worksheet. We also have included bond level data to the extent that is part of the template. And we have actually introduced a new comparison functionality, which is significantly faster and also allows time series analysis and a lot of additional features so that you can not only look at deals and compare deals, but also portfolios in a way you want to define. With that introduction, I would like to hand over to Gopala, who's actually the architect of Cloud, and will lead you through our new product.
Thanks, Mark. The Cloud Pro is actually a more powerful database compared to the current Cloud that we are having. We have upgraded a quick background in terms of technology. So we have upgraded the technology to the latest version of SQL, which is SQL 2014, and which has enabled us to use technologies like column store indices, which eventually make accessing the data much faster. In fact, for some very common use cases that are focused on one or two data fields, the queries can be up to 30 or 40 times faster, but in general, data retrieval across the universe of loan data sets and across the billions of loans that we have is tremendously faster compared to the current Cloud solution. Also, in terms of the Excel access interface, we now have one Excel workbook through which you can access data for all the 5 major asset classes: RMBS, SME, consumer, leasing, and auto. In terms of the standard features, we have retained all the standard features of the current Excel template, but we have added a whole lot of new features which I would like to showcase to you today. As you can see in the slide, one key feature is you can do loan portfolio analysis. Also, the number of comparison slots, we have increased it from 5 to 10, and you can define your own filters. You can also write your own queries directly and also use time series analysis. And you can also bring external data sets which are on your desktop and add them and compare them with the loan data sets in the Ed universe. With that quick introduction, I would like to jump into the demo of the Excel workbook itself. So this is the home page that you see as soon as you log in. So the Cloud Pro Excel workbook is now independent of the language settings. In the previous version, you needed to have the English regional and language setting. But this template is now language independent, and it works from Excel 2010 upwards. You can do a quick compatibility check here before you delve into the details of the workbook. You can also request direct access to the database in case you want to use some additional tools like SQL clients or business intelligence tools like Tableau, DataWatch, ClickView, or Microsoft Power BI to directly connect to the database for your custom analysis, you can simply write to us here and obtain direct access to the underlying loan data. Also, here is a quick link to all the ECB data templates and a quick introduction to what the Excel sheet comprises of. And also at the bottom you see our computation assumptions in terms of weighted averages, states, numbers, outliers, etc., which has not changed since the last version, but it is there here for a quick reference. With that, let's go to the home screen. So on the home screen, we have upgraded the home screen heavily. So at the top, you see very quick statistics about the loans in our universe. You also see quick news and events. So what's new in the cloud? So all new functionalities will be displayed here. You also see some quick publications from our research, and you can also look at the new deals in admin. So quick statistics. So we have crossed the 1,000 deal mark. And we have about 38 million loans in the latest snapshot, and historically we have about 700 million loans, taking into account some private deals that we have, so this number is inching towards 1 billion. So here you see all the list of 1,000 deals, RMBS, SME, you see everything here. So you do a quick search. You can also search by deal name, ISIN, or even the Bloomberg ticker. You can also type in any free text like country, and all Spanish deals here would be listed. So this is a free text search across the entire table. What you see here is you can also now search by Bloomberg tickers. So these tickers are mapped to our unique deal names, which we call as head codes, and these are updated weekly. So you can also look by the Bloomberg tickers. The main new added feature is, as most of you would know, we have the document repository in Edwin, where against each deal you can find its set of documentation like deal commentary, prospectus, investor reports. So here you immediately see which deals have what documents, and you can also download them from here. So just to take a look at an example deal. So I searched for one of the Spanish deals, so I can simply select on any deal and then click on the View Deal button. So this gives me a very quick information about this transaction. So we have now introduced bond level information. So you can see that this deal has 4 bonds here. So you can see very critical information like the IPD, the original balance, the current coupon rate, the reference rate, and so on. So these directly come from the ECB data template. And below that you see quick loan aggregate information. So you see the number of loans, current balance, original balance, borrower concentration, seasoning and maturity, LTV ratios. This has not changed from the last version. But below that you quickly see the performance statistics, and we also have the delinquency buckets. You can immediately slice and dice these delinquency buckets by account status. So if you want to look at only the loans in arrears, you can immediately see that, and you can see only the loans in arrears. So these 52 loans broken down here based on the months in arrears. On the right, you have the benchmarks. So by default, the CLTV benchmark is shown. So what the benchmark here indicates is in Spain, so we have about 145 deals. So all those 145 deals are displayed here with their LTV ratios shown in descending order of value, and the black point indicates where your deal currently is. So this is a very quick visual benchmark that can tell you how your deal is performing against the other deals in the same country, the vintage from the same issuer. So there are several benchmarks which we ship. By default, the LTV is shown, but you can also look at arrears or interest rate, and you can immediately see them here. Below this, you have the deal history, a very quick history of this transaction. So this transaction has received about 14 submissions beginning from early 2013 until May this year. So you can see the evolution of current balance, arrears, defaults, LTV, interest rate evolution, seasoning, etc. At the top, as has always been the case, you can navigate through these submissions using these navigation buttons. If you want to exclude some outlier values which are unusually high values, you can do so by clicking on this button. So now I'm including all the data sets. If I choose to exclude outliers, for example, any LTV dummy values reported as 999 are ignored in the weighted average computation. These outlier thresholds can be seen in the info page. Very quickly going through the menus at the top here. So we have now this new download functionality. So you can download bond level data for this submission or for the entire history here. And then as soon as you click download, you have the other Excel workbook with all the mandatory fields listed here. So you can instantly download all bond level data. Or if you want to directly download loan level data, you can, this link will directly take you to Admin, and as soon as you log in, if you are logged in, it directly takes you to the download page itself. So you need not again search for the deal and so on. Similarly for documentation, it directly takes you to the documentation page where you can click the download button and log in. Good. So in terms of the alerts, so alerts is a new functionality we are shipping now. So you can configure your own alerts, especially for key bond data fields and loan data fields. So if you go to the alerts, first of course you select which field you want, let's say current coupon rate, for which bond, and then I'm just putting an example, so alert me when the rate is equal to 5%, just as an example, and then you can create your alert. So all your alerts are shown here, and in the next submission or in future, whenever we receive a new data set where this alert value matches, then you would receive an email on your registered admin email address. So you can choose to delete your alerts if you want later. So this is a very nice way to configure your own alerts from within the cloud template. So moving on to the history page. So the history page is meant to see the entire transactions history. Predominantly we see the performance statistics here. So you see the evolution of account status. So by default we show the arrears and default evolution. So if you want to see the entire thing, you can also do these quick customizations, given that the performance chart skews the overall chart, so you can untick that. And you can also switch the month in arrears chart here. So these are the delinquency evolution of months in arrears. So again, you can customize these charts and copy paste them for your internal reports and so on. You can view all these charts either by loans or by current balance. So quickly seeing them by current balance. So that's a very quick performance history with the raw data outlined here. And we also have the custom history, so you can view the history for any field of your choice. So for example, if you want the current property type or current interest rate, you can immediately see the transaction history here. We also have the transition matrix in the history tab, because you can easily compare how this deal has evolved between one submission and another. So in this case, between the February pool cutoff date and the May pool cutoff date, you see that you can also view them by loans. So you see that 10 loans have gone from performing to arrears. You can change the dates here and then view transitions from any point in time to any point in time. Moving on to the strats. So in terms of the display of the strats, it's extremely similar to what we already had. So you see various strat tables for almost all mandatory fields as per the data template. But what is a tremendous improvement is now we have very quick comparison selections and at a much improved speed. So here when we say compare, you can immediately compare this with the same deal and with any of the historic pool cutoff dates, or you can compare this with all deals from the same country or from the same issuer and so on. So if I compare this deal with the entire Spanish universe, so you can see that within 2 seconds we have the strat table loaded for almost 1.7 million loans. And you can immediately compare them, let's say, with French deals and so on. So this gives a very quick ability to compare and slice and dice. So now that, and this nifty tick box here helps also in terms of readability. So you can immediately visualize this. Or if you want any visual illustration of these charts, you can simply select a cell here and click visualize. So this gives us a nice graph which you can easily edit. So these are standard Excel charts. So you can select data sets and create charts out of it. And if you want to see time series, as a quick example here, for example, we have the 1.24% of loans are in arrears. So how has this been over time? So you can immediately select this cell and say time series to look at the time series of this deal. So from the beginning for the first submission till now, you can immediately see the evolution of the arrears percentage or the default percentage. So all this is made possible using the new SQL version, which supports a column store technology, which makes it super fast to query a particular data field over billions of data points. We also have the import loan data function. So if you have a loan data file open in your desktop, that should show up here in the drop down, and then you can add that to comparison. We also have filters. So just as an example, if I take the Spanish data set again. So when you have filters here, so you can, let's say, filter for arrears loans. You can choose to apply this filter on a particular comparison or on all comparisons. So this ability here enables loan portfolio analysis. Just to quickly demonstrate to you how you can do that, let's say I take all Spanish loans and then I add to compare, and I do the same thing again and again. So now we have the same 1.5 million loans here appearing 3 times. And then when you do filters, so you can choose to have here all loans of a particular property type, or let's say all loans in arrears on slot 1, and then all loans in default on slot 2, and then all performing loans on the slot 3. And then you can look at the other strat tables and see and look at potential indicators or drivers for the arrears or for defaults. So this is just an example. One other example is you can filter these loans by origination year and look at loans originated prior 2008, during 2008, or post 2008. That's one more example of how you can slice and dice individual loans, not from a deal perspective, but more from a loan portfolio perspective. So that's an overview of the strat sheet. And finally, what you can do is, if you request for this direct data connection, direct access to the SQL database, you can build your own templates here by simply using the Excel tools. Like you can connect from SQL Server. So these credentials we would send across to you, and you can use these credentials and write your own queries. Or if you know, if you use internally any BI tools or any other SQL clients, you can use them to directly fetch data using your custom queries. One other thing that is very unique to this Excel workbook, unlike the previous version, is that all these data points that you see here, it's all coming from the cloud. So as in, if I simply delete this entire thing here and then redo this deal, it's all repainted, including the headers, including the data points and everything. So there is no value here that is hard-coded. So the Excel sheet is technically blank, and all the data points, including the formatting, comes directly from the cloud, which helps us which facilitates having one Excel workbook for pretty much all deals. So this here we have the SME transactions. So for instance, here in SME there are no LTV ratios. So here what you see here is completely different from what you see for RMBS. A very quick point which I would like to show in the Strats is in the case of auto transactions. If you go to the Strat table, so we have here, apart from these static fields where there are static predefined buckets, we also have the geographic region, which are very dynamic, and for example car manufacturer, which is extremely dynamic. So in this case, due to space constraints, we have the dynamic bucket name here. We have removed the current balance and instead display only the loans and percentage. So when you do a comparison with other auto transactions, you can immediately see how the car manufacturers vary. So here we always list the top 10 in descending order of percentage current balance. So it gives you a very quick comparison even for dynamic fields other than the static fields. That pretty much brings us to the end of the demo. So just to go through this one more time very quickly. So the home page, we have the ability to quick search even by Bloomberg tickers. We have key statistics at a glance, and we have the latest news and our research publications. On the deal page, we have benchmarks, bond level data, the ability to download information, and the ability to create and manage your own alerts. On the history page, you can see historic evolution of pretty much any mandatory field that you want. And in the Strats, you can view strat tables, you can slice and dice them, bring charts for them, look at time series, compare them, do loan portfolio analysis, and also bring in your own data set using the import LLD function. Now talking a bit on the direct access to the database. So once you request access here, you would be able to directly query our data tables. We also would send across to you a document highlighting how our data model is, how our data is structured, and in the future, within the next 1 month, we will also be upgrading our SQL version to SQL 2016, which brings in even more performance, helping in querying millions of loans in just 1 or 2 seconds. So once we do that, this wouldn't bring in any changes to the Excel file, so you would be still able to use the current Excel file that we are launching today, but it should be much faster. That brings us to the end of the presentation. And in terms of what's next for the cloud, after we launch this now, in July and August, we will be working with market participants to do internal testing of our CDR project. So we plan to launch the CDRs as part of the cloud as a separate worksheet. So if you select any deal, there would be a new sheet on the cloud which would display all the default loans and a computed CDR value for that. So we invite all of you market participants to participate in this project of ours for internal testing and validation. And the first batch of the 3-month CDR we plan to release for the Spanish transactions in September and October, and for the Italian transactions in November. By the end of the year, we should have the CDR values, both the actual computed CDR and the list of defaults for every deal, for almost 200 deals by the end of the year. And through the end of the year, we also plan to launch the next generation of the cloud, which would include, apart from the loan data and bond data, also directly data from investor reports and more enhancements in terms of feature sets. If you have any questions, please feel free to type your questions on the chat box or on the Q&A box, and I'm happy to answer them. We have one question on the launch date of this Excel file. This Excel file is now available for you. So after the webinar, we should send you an email with the file as an attachment. The import loan data function alone will take some more time, probably 1 week. We are still testing it for all asset classes, although it's working fine for RMBS. But apart from that, everything is good to go, and you should receive an email with the attachment. We have a question on how our data is structured on the cloud. So if you request direct access to the database, we would provide you documentation, and we would also help in setting up the connection from your own BI systems to the database. One point in addition to that is, since all the data is pretty much painted on the Excel sheet from the cloud, we can also provide any customizations that you might need. For instance, if you say you are not interested in all the Strat tables, but you are interested in a very few select performance-related fields, but apart from the loans and current balance, you are also interested in seeing the default amount, recoveries, and arrears balance, and so on. So we can do such a custom page for you for your cloud version. So these customizations are also possible. Given that we have no more questions for the day, thank you all very much for participating in the webinar. We will send across the presentation to you along with the cloud file template, Excel workbook, in a follow-up email. Thank you all once again, and I wish you a very good evening. Bye-bye.